we're going to be okay. We're going to be okay. When the history of this era is written, Putin's war in Ukraine will have left Russia weaker and the rest of the world stronger. While it shouldn't have taken something so terrible for people around the world to see what's at stake, now everyone sees it clearly. We see the unity among leaders of nations, a more unified Europe, a more unified West. We see unity among the people who are gathering in cities and large crowds around the world, even in Russia, to demonstrate their support for the people of Ukraine. In the battle between democracy and autocracies, democracies are rising to the moment, and the world is clearly choosing the side of peace and security. This is the real test. It's going to take time. So let us continue to draw inspiration from the iron will of the Ukrainian people. To our fellow Ukrainian Americans who forged the deep bond that connects our two nations, we stand with you. We stand with you. Putin may circle Kyiv with tanks, but he'll never gain the hearts and souls of the Iranian people. He'll never extinguish their love of freedom, and he will never weaken the resolve of the free world. We meet tonight in an America that has lived through two of the hardest years this nation has ever faced. The pandemic has been punishing, and so many families are living paycheck to paycheck, struggling to keep up with the rising cost of food, gas, housing, and so much more. I understand, like many of you did. My dad had to leave his home in Scranton, Pennsylvania to find work. So like many of you, I grew up in a family when the price of food went up, it was felt throughout the family. It had an impact. That's when one of the first things I did as president was fight to pass the American Rescue Plan. Because people were hurting, we needed to act, and we did. Few pieces of legislation have done more at a critical moment in our history to lift us out of a crisis. It fueled our efforts to vaccinate the nation and combat COVID-19, delivered immediate economic relief to tens of millions of Americans. It helped put food on the table. Remember those long lines of cars waiting for hours just to get a box of food put in their trunk? It cut the cost of health care insurance. And as my dad used to say, it gave the people just a little bit of breathing room. Unlike the $2 trillion tax cut passed in the previous administration that benefited the top 1% of Americans, the American Rescue Plan helped working people and left no one behind. Folks, and it worked. It worked. It worked. We created jobs, lots of jobs. In fact, our economy created over 6.5 million new jobs just last year. More jobs in 1 year than ever before in the history of the United States of America. The economy grew at a rate of 5.7 last year, the strongest growth rate in 40 years. And the first step in bringing fundamental change to our economy that hasn't worked for working people in this nation for too long. For the past 40 years, we were told the tax break for those at the top and benefits would trickle down and everyone would benefit. But that trickle-down theory led to a weaker economic growth, lower wages, bigger deficits, and a widening gap between the top and everyone else in nearly a century. Look, Vice President Harris and I ran for office, and I realize we have fundamental disagreements on this, but ran for office with a new economic vision for America. Invest in America, educate Americans, grow the workforce, build the economy from the bottom up and the middle out, not from the top down, because we know Because we know when the middle class grows, the poor will way up and the wealthy do very well. America used to have the best roads, bridges, and airports on earth. And now our infrastructure is ranked 13th in the world. We won't be able to compete for the jobs of the 21st century if we don't fix it. That's why it was so important to pass the bipartisan infrastructure law. And I thank my Republican friends to join, to invest, and rebuild America. The single biggest investment in history. It was a bipartisan effort, and I want to thank the members of both parties who worked to make it happen. We're done talking about infrastructure weeks. We're now talking about an infrastructure decade. And look, it's going to transform America, to put us on a path to win the economic competition of the 21st century that we face with the rest of the world, particularly China. I've told Xi Jinping it's never been a good bet to bet against the American people. We'll create good jobs for millions of Americans, modernizing roads, airports, ports, waterways, all across America. And we'll do it to withstand the devastating effects of climate change and promote environmental justice. We'll build a national network of 500,000 electric vehicle charging stations. Begin to replace the poisonous lead pipes so every child, every American has clean water to drink at home and at school. We're going to provide affordable, high-speed internet for every American, rural, suburban, urban, and tribal communities. 4,000 projects have already been announced. Many of you have announced them in your districts. And tonight, I'm announcing that this year, we will start fixing over 65,000 miles of highway and 1,500 bridges in disrepair. And folks, when we use taxpayers' dollars to rebuild America, we're going to do it by buying American. Buy American products. Support American jobs. The federal government spends about $600 billion a year to keep this country safe and secure. There's been a law on the books for almost a century to make sure taxpayers' dollars support American jobs and businesses. Every administration, Democrat or Republican, says they'll do it, but we're actually doing it. We'll buy America to make sure everything from the deck of an aircraft carrier to the steel on highway guardrails is made in America from beginning to end. All of it. All of it. But folks, to compete for the jobs of the future, we also need a level playing field with China and other competitors. That's why it's so important to pass the Bipartisan Innovation Act sitting in Congress that will make record investments in emerging technologies and American manufacturing. Semiconductor megasite, up to 8 state-of-the-art factories in one place, 10,000 new jobs. And in those factories, the average job about $135,000 a year. Some of the most sophisticated manufacturing in the world to make computer chips the size of a fingertip, that power the world in everyday lives, from smartphones, technology to the internet. Technology is yet to be invented. But that's just the beginning. Intel CEO Pat Gelsinger, was here tonight. I don't know where Pat is. Pat, there you go. Pat, stand up. Pat. Pat came to see me, and he told me they're ready to increase their investment from $20 billion to $100 billion. That would be the biggest investment in manufacturing in American history. And all they're waiting for is for you to pass this bill. So let's not wait any longer. Send it to my desk. I'll sign it, and we'll really take off in the big way. Folks, Intel is not alone. There's something happening in America. Just look around and you'll see an amazing story. The rebirth of pride that comes from stamping products made in America. The revitalization of American manufacturing. Companies are choosing to build new factories here when just a few years ago they would have gone overseas. That's what's happening. Ford is investing $11 billion in electric vehicles, creating 11,000 jobs across the country. GM is making the largest investment in its history, $7 billion to build electric vehicles, creating 4,000 jobs in Michigan. All told, 369,000 new manufacturing jobs were created in America last year alone. Folks, powered by people I've met like JoJo Burgess from generations of union steelworkers in Pittsburgh, who's here with us tonight. Where are you, JoJo? There you go. Thanks, buddy. As Ohio Senator Sherrod Brown says, it's time to bury the label Rust Belt. It's time to see what used to be called a Rust Belt become the home of significant resurgence of manufacturing. And with all the bright spots in our economy, record job growth, higher wages, too many families are struggling to keep up with the bills. Inflation is robbing them of gains they thought otherwise they would be able to feel. I get it. That's why my top priority is getting prices under control. Look, our economy roared back faster than almost anyone predicted. The pandemic meant that businesses had a hard time hiring enough people because of the pandemic to keep up production in their factories. So you didn't have people making those beams that went into buildings because they were out. The factory was closed. The panic also disrupted the global supply chain. Factories close. When that happens, it takes longer to make goods and get them to the warehouses, to the stores, and prices go up. Look at cars last year. 1/3 of all the inflation was because of automobile sales. There weren't enough semiconductors to make all the cars that people wanted to buy. And guess what? Prices of automobiles went way up, especially used vehicles as well. And so we have a choice. One way to fight inflation is to drive down wages and make Americans poor. I think I have a better idea to fight inflation. Lower your costs, not your wages. Folks, that means make more cars and semiconductors in America, more infrastructure and innovation in America, more goods moving faster and cheaper in America, more jobs where you can earn a good living in America. Instead of relying on foreign supply chains, let's make it in America. Look, economists call this increasing the productive capacity of our economy. I call it building a better America. My plan to fight inflation will lower your costs and lower the deficit.
Wage labor.
17 Nobel laureates in economics said my plan will ease long-term inflationary pressures. Top business leaders, and I believe most Americans support the plan. And here's the plan. First, cut the cost of prescription drugs. We pay more for the same drug produced by the same company in America than any other country in the world. Just look at insulin. 1 in 10 Americans has diabetes. In Virginia, I met a 13-year-old boy, the handsome young man standing up there, Joshua Davis. He and his dad both have type 1 diabetes, which means they need insulin every single day. Insulin costs about $10 a vial to make. That's what it costs the pharmaceutical company. But drug companies charge families like Joshua and his dad up to 30 times that amount. I spoke with Joshua's mom. Imagine what it's like to look at your child who needs insulin to stay healthy and have no idea how in God's name you're going to be able to pay for it. What it does to your family, but what it does to your dignity, your ability to look your child in the eye. Be the parent you expect yourself
1 in 10 Americans have
I
diabetes.
really mean to think about that.
I feel like that should be bigger news.
You know, yesterday, Joshua's here tonight, but yesterday was his birthday. Happy birthday, buddy, by the way. For Joshua
What about diabetes? 1 in 10 Americans have it.
and 200,000 other young people with type 1 diabetes, let's cap
1
the
in
cost
10,
of insulin at
10%.
$35 a month
10%.
so everyone can afford it.
If it was 1/3
And
or even
drug
2,
companies will do
something.
very, very well. Their profit margin.
I mean, we seriously need to do something now anyway.
While we're at it, I know we have great disagreements on this floor with this. Let's let Medicare negotiate the price of prescription drugs.
It's not like the same talking points Trump had. It's just that Biden isn't.
They already
Calling
set the
people
price
stupid.
for VA
Yeah.
drugs.
Yeah, that goes a long way.
Rescue plan is helping millions of families with Affordable Care Act plans.
It's almost like we haven't fixed any of the problems in, 8 years now? 6 years?
Make these savings
No, but
permanent.
it means like I mean like it has
Second.
the same solutions as well. Like, I'm not saying there's a problem.
But I mean,
it's the same.
those are the
Let's
solutions.
cut energy
Like,
costs for families.
Driller,
An
just
average of
driller, you
$500 a
prick.
year by combating climate change. Let's provide an investment tax credits to weatherize your home and your business, to be energy efficient and get a tax credit for it. Double America's clean energy production in solar, wind, and so much more. Lower the price of electric vehicles, saving another $80 a month that you're not going to have to pay at the pump. Folks, third,
What is that for?
the third thing we can do to change the standard of living for hardworking folks
Who's in that?
is cut the
Who's
cost of child care.
Who's in what?
Cut the cost.
I'm sorry. Say that again.
Who's the kid?
Who's the kid? He has diabetes. His name's
Oh,
Scott
that's
Madsen.
there.
Oh wait, shit. I got some.
Cost of child care.
The kid is the president's token of model health.
no, he's not.
Our children should be drinking only high fructose corn syrup.
If you live in a major city in America, you pay up to $14,000 a year for child care per child. I was a single
Dad,
dad
what's
for 5
American
years.
This speech brought to you by Pepsi.
A lot of help, though.
Make America gluttonous again.
A brother and a sister that really help.
Oh, it's already there.
Middle class and working
Yeah,
folks
well, what do you think the
shouldn't have
against
to pay
for?
more than 7% of their income to care
Think
for
how
them.
horrible it was before that.
My plan was to cut the cost
If that happens, I'm leaving.
of child care in half for most families.
I go live in Russia or something. I just
And
don't
help
care.
Parents, including millions of women who live
That would be a great way for me. I'd done.
for child care to be able to get back to work,
Why are you leaving?
generating economic growth. My plan doesn't stop there. It also
Patrick,
includes
it's your job to make them healthier.
more affordable housing,
Yeah, well,
pre-K for 3 and 4-year-olds.
I can tell you one
All
thing.
these will lower
Most
the
of them
cost
don't
for
give a flying fuck.
And under my plan, nobody, let me say this
Hey, we're
again,
doing yoga again
nobody
at 7. Okay.
earning less than
So,
No, we're not.
$400,000 a
face
year
on.
will pay an additional penny in new taxes.
Who's this weak
Not a
rat?
single
you,
penny.
me, Annika, Anthony, and Matt. Everybody in this call. Okay? Again.
Oh,
What am I gonna do?
okay, hold
Maybe
on.
No,
wrong.
and if you're not in the call.
But my guess
Ooh,
is
I
if we
fucking
could
What
said
are
it
you gonna
before.
do?
I said it before you left. Yoga at 7.
that we'd all agree
Or
that
whenever
the
the
present
Yoga?
tax
president
system
Michael,
is
I'm gonna
ain't
eat
fair.
first.
That's fine. Go eat.
We have to fix
Yeah,
it.
but my food's still
I'm not
not
looking to
here.
punish anybody.
Oh, you ordered.
Let's
food.
make corporations and wealthy Americans
Yeah,
start
because
paying
I
their fair share.
I have really
Look.
bad headache.
Last year,